Hey everybody, hope you can see me. I've had to turn the camera around the other way so that you can actually read what I'm saying and it doesn't all come out back to front. So most of you would know that if you saw my earlier post that tonight's video is going to be about goal setting and the best way to do it. So there's a lot of posts that I usually do that are about, taking action and, improving your life, you finding your better self, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people want to do things like that, but they don't know how. And the biggest thing that they need to understand and know is firstly how to set your goals. So tonight I want to go through the SMART goals formula because it is a really smart way to work on setting your goals and how to achieve that in the best way possible. So firstly, just a couple of things that I wanted to say is that a lot of people think that a goal would be something like, I want to be happy. So before we start, I want to make it very clear that happiness is not a goal. It is a state. It is a feeling. It's not a goal. You can have goals in order to achieve the state of happiness, but that is not a goal. So don't write that one down. And you need to make sure that your goal starts and ends with you. So there's no point putting down a goal where you're going to start off doing this, this, and this, but the end result is out of your control because that really is an unachievable goal. So these are just some things to think about as we're going through the SMART goals and as you work on your goals throughout the rest of this week. Okay, so starting off, we've got S, the first one. So we need to make sure that the goal is specific. So saying things like, I want to make money is not specific. Want to make more money than who? Want to make more money than what? You want to make an extra 50 cents? You want to make an extra $300? When do you want to make it by? That is not specific. You need to be specific when you write down your goals. Same as saying, I want to be skinnier. Skinnier than who? You need to be specific. The next S is simple. So although that the goal needs to be specific, you will still want to keep it as simple as possible. You don't want to put 300 rules within your goal that is going to make it really hard to achieve. So keep it specific, but keep it simple as well. The next one is measurable. So your goal needs to be measurable. I spelled that one wrong, sorry. So in terms of, let's say, for example, weight loss, if you wanted to, if that was one of your goals, then there needs to be some kind of measurability in there. So you need to know what your end goal is, what you want your end weight to be, and how you can measure that somehow throughout the course of your progress. So you don't want to get to, you should be able to get to halfway and be able to measure where you're at. You don't want to get to the day before and you've wanted to lose 20 kilos and go, shit, I've got 19 kilos to go, because that you haven't measured your progress throughout the way. So you need to make sure that there's some kind of measurability within your goal setting. The next one has to be meaningful to you. So what we find a lot is that a lot of the goals that we set in our lives aren't goals that we are really passionate about. They're goals that other people may have expectations of us of. So for example, if you were somebody who wanted to lose weight, do you really want to lose weight because you're unhappy with yourself, or is somebody else putting pressure on you to lose that weight? That's an example of being meaningful to you. You have to really, really want to achieve that goal. If you're trying to achieve it for somebody else, you don't have 100% certainty behind that goal. You don't have 100% drive behind it. So you're most likely not going to want to achieve it or achieve it to its full potential or within the time frame that you've set for yourself. So it has to be meaningful to you. Next one is as if now. So when you're writing your goals, you need to write them as if you're already achieving them. So you need to write your goals in now time. So don't write your goals in, say, I want to achieve this X thing in 2 months time. Okay. As of now, I am going to achieve blah, 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 and I'm going to achieve it by this date. but you need to write it as if you're writing it now, not writing it in 2 months' time. Anything that you're trying to achieve in the future, you're going to fail at, because you need to be in the mindset to do it right away, do it immediately. Otherwise, you're just going to keep putting it off. Next one is achievable. Okay, so your goal needs to be achievable. You can't really set yourself a goal where you say, okay, I want to make $1 million in a week. That is a goal, but it's not an achievable goal. If you said, I want to make $1 million in the next 12 months, sure. But it needs to be something that's achievable, and again, it needs to be measurable. So make sure that what your goals are something you actually believe that you can achieve. If you don't believe that you can achieve it, then you're not going to. Your belief system really makes a whole difference around this whole goal setting process. So you've got to make sure that what you set, you believe that you can achieve it. Okay, the next one is all areas of your life. Okay, so all areas of your life means that your goal you need to measure and understand whether or not your goal just affects you or it affects other people in your life. So let's say, for example, you couldn't really set yourself a goal to say, I want to move to another country if you have a family and your family doesn't want to move, because that goal affects other people and therefore makes it unachievable if your whole family doesn't want to move, or it doesn't make it fair in terms of all aspects of your life. So you need to consider that as well. Okay, R, and this is a very, very important one. It needs to be realistic. So there's no point setting goal. And this one kind of comes hand in hand with achievable, but it needs to be realistic. Don't go setting something that is just not even within the scope of what is realistic. You know, it just really seems common sense. If it's not realistic, don't bother writing it down. It needs to be realistic. That one really speaks for itself. Okay, so the next one is it needs to be responsible, ecological. And this basically means that your goal needs to ensure that it is responsible in terms of the people around you, the social environment, the planet, and all aspects like that. So your goal, obviously, if you were to write a goal that was, I want to go and open a plastic burning factory next door to a school, clearly that is not responsible, not ecological to the community. There's a lot of factors involved there that just don't make a lot of sense to people. So you need to be responsible. Clearly a bit of a stupid example, but you get the point of where I'm getting at. It needs to be responsible and it needs to be ecological to, you know, the community, the social of the world, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so moving on, your goals need to be timed. So you need to have, it always needs to have a deadline on it. So I want to achieve X and I want to achieve it by this date. And again, the timing needs to have all those other factors involved. So it needs to be measurable within that time. It needs to be realistic. It needs to be achievable. It needs to be specific so you know exactly what you're trying to achieve within that time. Next one is it needs to be toward what you want. So in terms of toward what you want, what that really means is you need to be moving forward towards something as opposed to moving away from something. So let's say, for example, you were someone who was just getting sick all of the time. This was me, 2 years ago. And what I said was I'd had enough. I didn't want to be sick. My goal was to not be sick anymore. I don't want to be sick anymore. That goal is not moving towards something. Your toward goal needs to be reworded in a positive manner, and it needs to be, I want to be healthy, or I am healthy, and I'm going to achieve my full healthiness by X date. And there needs to be, obviously, you need to factor in a measurability around that. So you you know, you're going to be eating certain things, whatever it may be. It needs to be specific. It needs to be simple. It needs to be measurable. Meaningful to you, as if now, achievable. It needs to cover all areas of your life. It needs to be realistic, responsible, and ecological. It needs to be timed, and it needs to be toward what you want. And a couple of other things that are really important to understand is what the outcome is. So in terms of outcome, basically you need to understand what is the very last thing that needs to happen in order for you to know that you've achieved your goal. So what is the last thing that needs to happen? That is a very, very important piece. Knowing your outcome is super important. And what is also something that I hear a lot when it comes to goals or achieving goals is that a lot of people use the excuse that, oh, I just didn't have time. I didn't get around to it. You will make time for what is important to you. And you can sit there and say black and blue, but that is so important to me. No, it's not important enough if you haven't achieved your goal or if you haven't worked your ass off to try and achieve that goal. Sometimes we have obstacles that get in our way, or, you know, something comes up in our path where we have to divert and maybe take a different path to achieve that goal. But whatever it takes, if you haven't tried your very, very, very best to achieve that goal, then it wasn't important enough to you. So you have to make sure that your goal is 100% important enough to you. Otherwise, don't bother writing it down. Okay, so just give me a second. I'm just going to check to see if there's any questions because the phone's facing the opposite way to me before I get off my feed. Thank you everyone who's been watching and everyone who's commented so far. That's fantastic. I'm so glad. I really, really hope that this has helped some people. If there is anyone that is still having trouble with these goals afterwards and maybe having trouble in terms of writing them out or understanding the SMART goals formula, so I'm trying for anyone who's still copying it down to get out of the way. But yeah, please just send me an inbox. I'll try and help you out as best as I can. But at the end of the day, these goals really come down to you. These have got to be your goals. You are going to achieve the things that are most important to you in your life, and you've got to really want them bad enough. You really want to turn your life around, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. Doesn't matter how shit your life is. If you're going to sit there and say, I don't have time, bullshit. If it means enough to you, you will make it happen. So, yeah, I hope this has been a really helpful feed for everyone tonight. Any feedback that you want to provide, please feel free, make some comments. Otherwise, yeah, send me an inbox if you guys need any help or have any questions at all. All right, thanks guys. Peace.